this might, if all of this always is, from the part of those who might be orchestrating the events, or if this might actually be something, I guess, that could be related to what I like to call, the overmind, I guess, who kind of works in this way, it seems, to kind of expose us to these kinds of patterns to I guess, let us know about that there is something more behind the event. Do you have an idea about this at all?
Well, actually, my almost 3 decades of research in this have shown that there is a specific built-in code that these people are fanatical about incorporating into their most prized events.
Mm.
And, like, for instance, in this death of Stanley Kubrick, for this to be exactly 666 days, a number that is very important to the Illuminati, for the reason that it refers to a triplicity of the number 6, which in the Kabbalistic tree of life refers to the sun or solar energy.
Yeah.
And so when you see these types of things built into these events, these codes, and I've seen many, many of these over the years, I am convinced that this is a part of their obsession, that they must do this to create more energy for themselves, to make themselves more powerful, to be guided by the numerology behind the event. And if we look at other events like September 11th, like I mentioned a moment ago,
yeah,
you see this coding throughout the whole event.
Oh, yeah. Very interesting, and I totally agree. And also getting back to the movie here, there are obviously many levels in these movies, but what would you say would be the kind of the main hints in this movie, if we are to dive into that?
Okay, in the Eyes Wide Shut movie, at the beginning of the movie, we see Nicole Kidman doing a striptease in front of a mirror, which is a closet door. The mirror is a symbol of the human soul, and it's also a reflection of the as above, so below concept. In addition to that, it is also a symbol of the macrocosm being reflected into the microcosm. And in this section of the film, we see in the corner of the room, under a lamp, a pair of tennis rackets.
Yeah.
Now, this refers to the fact that this movie is about love and love issues and fidelity and infidelity and cheating and sexual deviance and the whole 9 yards related to this. A little later on in the film, we once again see Nicole Kidman in front of a mirror, and just to the right in the film frame of the mirror is a painting of sunflowers.
Yeah.
Now, this again refers to the solar energy that these individuals are trying to harness and to use that energy to make them more powerful. So those are just a couple of the beginning symbols that we see in the film. Beyond that, there is also allusion to the Through the Looking Glass and the Alice in Wonderland mythos.
Yeah.
The Nicole Kidman character is named Alice in the movie. And so therefore, on another level, her standing in front of this mirror is Alice as seen through the eye of the looking glass.
Yeah. Interesting, of course, we have Alice in Wonderland, and also, I guess, throughout the movie, there is very interesting use of colors in different ways, and of course, again, we could dive into the area, I guess, of the rainbow. This is something that occurs several times throughout the movie. Do you want to talk about this a little bit?
Yeah. The use of color in this film is used to basically put forth several different bits of information. For example, in the ritual section of the film, which is the very part of the film that was never mentioned in any of the advertising, was never mentioned in any of the promotional materials. It was never mentioned in the DVD packaging or anything else. The high priest in that ritual wears the color red.
Yeah.
And this individual, who is known in the script as Red Cloak, is a color allusion to the bloodline aspect of the Illuminati. Beyond that, we also see, as you mentioned a moment ago, the rainbow.
Yeah.
And in the, for instance, in the section of the movie where Tom Cruise goes to rent a costume to get into the ritual, this is known as the Rainbow Fashions. And interestingly, underneath on the first floor of this store is a second store that's called Under the Rainbow. The Rainbow Bridge is known as a way of traveling from the human three-dimensional world that we inhabit and the spirit world, and this is the reason for that.
Very interesting, and again, we have this tie into other previous films and stories. You mentioned, of course, earlier Alice in Wonderland, but here again we have the Wizard of Oz theme occurring. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. The Wizard of Oz is a film that I have always been frightened of since I was a very young child. And I never understood why. And my family members, my mom and my dad and my grandparents and other adults, could never tell me why I was so afraid of this movie. I later did some research on mind control, and I found that The Wizard of Oz is a very big-time theme in these mind control situations. MK Ultra program is one of the most well-known of these mind control programs.
Yeah.
And so, like for instance, in The Wizard of Oz, we see that they are mentioned, mind control slaves are programmed under the Wizard of Oz system, are always told to follow the Yellow Brick Road. The Yellow Brick Road is associated with compliance, travel, and a goal to be achieved. It's also adapted to fit the differing circumstances of the individual. For instance, if a person was interested in sports, they might adapt this to be like a running race against another character. Another thing that happens with The Wizard of Oz is that we see this part of the movie in black and white, and then it goes into this color section of the movie once they get to Oz. This is a symbol of the eyes see and the ears to hear again. Because what happens is you see the mundane shown in black and white, dull colors, which represent something undesirable to the subconscious mind of a child. Like, for instance, who would want to be part of something dull and boring?
Yeah.
Reality is downplayed in this way, and make-believe is encouraged, especially with the part of the movie that turns into color, where this is suddenly a place of adventure, and the Yellow Brick Road itself is not too subtle of a reference to gold, wealth, and success that the Illuminati are well known for.
Yeah. So, do you think that in that movie, again, there is someone trying to tell us something? Because in one instance, that movie also, I guess, reveals the fact of the the evil wizard who basically does not have any magical power. It's just he's behind the curtain and it's all fake, basically.
Yeah, and that actually is true of what we see in our world today. People like George W. Bush claim to have all this power when in fact he's only a puppet of people who are over him directing his actions and movements on a day-to-day basis. One other thing about The Wizard of Oz that I thought was very interesting was that the three companions of Dorothy, the Scarecrow, which relates to the brain, the man, Tin Man, which relates to the heart, and the Cowardly Lion, which relates to courage, represent the mental, emotional, and physical bodies that H.P. Blavatsky wrote about in her theosophical poem entitled There Is a Road.
Oh, really?
And we are alluded to the Yellow Brick Road once again.
Interesting.
This poem goes in part, there is no danger that dauntless courage cannot conquer, and that refers to the lion. There is no trial that spotless purity cannot pass through. That relates to the Tin Man. There is no difficulty that strong intellect cannot surmount, and that relates to the Scarecrow. So there is layer upon layer upon layer of symbolism in this film specifically, and many others just like it.
Interesting, and again, I mean, it's very, I think, must have been a very powerful experience to go and see this movie back in, 1939, I think it was released, right?
Yes,
yeah.
That's correct.
Amazing. And another thing regarding the rainbow, I think, isn't there something in the beginning when the main character in Eyes Wide Shut is at the party? Let me see here.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
There, at the beginning of the movie, there is a Christmas party.
Yeah.
And there is two models that walk up to Tom Cruise's character, who is Dr. Bill Harford. Dr. Bill being a pun, which should be self-evident. These models ask him, don't you want to go to where the rainbow ends? And he replies that all depends on where that is. And once again, we have the allusion to the rainbow, which is, on one level, a representative of druidic magic, and the type of magic that these individuals in the Illuminati practice.